should look really familiar to you guys. If you have been here over the last week, I'm sure you are probably getting tired of seeing it, that it's really important that we go over it again. All right, and you're probably saying to yourself, Kirsty, why are you going over this again? You've been over this 3 times. I know I've been over it 3 times, okay? That it's really important that we look at it, all right? And we make sure that you understand exactly what is going on here. All right, so I'm gonna go over it one more time, all right? Remember, okay, you can screenshot this and so that you've got it saved somewhere. So when we have a positive and a negative number next to each other, so for example, if it looks like this, all right, you guys are going to tell me in the chat. I see Unati is already there. She's already put it in. Good, it's a negative. Fantastic. So, for example, if I have 4 plus, open brackets, negative 7, what is my steps going to be? What are my steps going to be? Who can tell me my steps? So I'm looking for someone's hand. Give me a hand. All right, who's going to help me out here? Right. Retabile, can you go through the steps with me? Let's go.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, what are we doing, Retabile? What's our first step?
So our first step will be circling the positive and the negative.
Fantastic, Retabile. We're going to put a circle around the positive and the negative. Good.
Then we're gonna make it a negative.
Good. So I can see a positive and a negative. I know the negative's the biggest sign. I'm going to cross them out and put a negative.
Then the answer will be -3.
Fantastic. 4 minus 7 gives me -3. You are a rock star. Amazing. Well done. Thank you so much for helping me out. All right. So my next one, I've got a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other. So when I have a negative and a positive next to each other, I'm going to be left with a negative, like you guys are telling me in the chat. Fantastic. So for example, if I have 2 minus positive 4, okay, I'm going to do the steps quickly for us here. I'm going to put a circle. I see a negative and a positive. I'm going to cross those out and get a negative. 2 minus 4 is going to give me -2. How did I get those answers? Guys, go back, have a look at that lesson when we use number lines to work out our answers, okay? All right, and practice with your number lines. All right, when I have a positive and a positive next to each other, I'm going to be left with a positive answer. Good. So for example, if I have -7 plus +7, I stop, I put my circle around the 2 positives. I know that a positive and a positive is going to give me a positive, and -7 plus 7 is going to give me 0. And finally, if I have 2 negatives next to each other, when the signs are the same and they're next to each other, fantastic, everybody, I've got a positive. So for example, 2 minus -4 equals, I'm going to put circle around those 2. I'm going to cross them out, and it's going to give me a positive sign, right? And 2 plus 4 is going to give me 6. So I'm going to bring the screen up for you so that you can take a screenshot of that, because this is a really important table for you to go through and for you to remember. Okay. All right, make sure you've taken a screenshot. Make sure you've got this saved somewhere. If you haven't written it down already, really important that you've got it written down. All right, so again, what we're going to do before we carry on with today's lesson, all right, which is word problems again, okay, we're going to have a look at revising this really quickly because it's important that we've got the foundation laid, and then we're going to move on to today's lesson. Okay, so All right. I am going to give you a little bit of time. Oopsie daisy. Let's make sure you can see all of these numbers. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to answer these questions. All right. What I'm going to do, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Hugo if he can just clear the hands for me very quickly. Okay, I'm going to give you, because I know there might be some questions about that table. I get it. Okay, I get it. All right. But what I'd like you to do first, before I answer any questions on the table, is I'd like you to try and practice these questions first. So we're going to put into practice what we've just revised above. Okay. Then I'm going to ask if there's any questions based on these questions that we're doing at the moment. So Mr. Hugo, if you can lower everybody's hands for me, I'd appreciate it. I'm not sure if I have that option here. I might be able to actually. All right. And then what I'll do is there we go. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to have a look at. So I'm going to ask you to not raise your hands at the moment. All right, I will answer your questions in a few minutes. What I'd like you to do first is I'd like you to have a look at the questions first. Okay, I will give you time to answer questions. Okay, all right. What I'd like you to do first is I'd like you to have a look at the questions and give it a try first. Okay, so give it a try first. All right. Okay, so go give it a try. I'm giving you a few minutes. All right. And then I will give you an opportunity to ask some questions. I promise I will give you an opportunity. Okay, while you're trying that, I'm just going to answer a question that I see in the chat here. There are some people that are saying, one or two people that say that they can't see the screen. What I suggest you perhaps do is exit the lesson and then come back in. That might be a problem. All right, the screen is definitely working. Okay, so I would suggest perhaps exiting the lesson and then we will let you back into the lesson. So maybe try that. All right, otherwise Mr. Hugo will try and help you with in the chats, but the screen is definitely working. Okay, guys. So I know that some of you might still be busy, and that's okay. I see that some of you are saying that you are very confused. Let us have a look at some of these questions. So number one, all right, I've got 5 minus, and then I've got a bracket, and it says positive 9. So what do? I pick up my pen. I see a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other. So the first thing I'm going to go do is I'm going to go draw my circle. Which sign is more powerful? I can go up to my table and check, but I know it's going to be the negative sign. So how do I answer these questions? What have I said to you guys before? I said the best way to do this is to draw yourself a nice big number line. Okay, I've got a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. Okay, I can't fit any more numbers, but hopefully you can draw yourself a really nice big one on your page. All right, I'm starting at the number 5. So here is the number 5, and I need to subtract 9. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where am I going to end up, everybody? I'm going to end up at negative 4. Now, I remember from one of our other lessons that we had people who told me about their teachers that taught them about a car, and you move the car over and then you move the car back. That's fine if you've done it that way. Perfectly happy with that, okay? This is just a different way for you to do it. All right, I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to answer some questions that I see there, and I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to try some more by yourself. Okay, so let's go have a look. All right, I see. I've got negative 3 minus positive 8. So I see two signs next to each other. I'm going to go draw a circle around those. A negative and a positive, I'm going to cross them out, and it's going to become a negative. So I've got negative 3 minus 8. So I would start at negative 3, and I would move minus 8 on my number line. And my number line is not big enough, but hopefully yours is. And that would give me an answer of negative 11. All right. Two more together, and then I'm going to let you guys carry on by yourselves. Negative 7 minus 0. We've spoken about this one before. Negative 7 minus 0. Anything minus 0 is itself. So this is going to be negative 7. And number 4, I've got negative 3 minus positive 3. I draw a circle. This is going to be left with a negative. Positive 3 minus 3 gives me 0. Okay. All right, so somebody is asking me, how did I get to 11? I used my number line, negative 3 minus 8. If you go to your number line and you go to negative 3 and you go all the way back to, if you minus 8 from negative 3, you get to negative 11. Okay, you need to make sure that you use your number lines. All right. Okay. I'm going to answer 2 questions. While some people tried more of these, I will give you all the answers as soon as I'm back from answering these 2 questions. Okay, let's have a look at some people's questions. So I'm starting with Ompile. Ompile, what is your question?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Ompile. What's your question, my love?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask that for the challenge, ma'am.
Yeah, for the challenge.
Yes, ma'am. I don't understand, like, how do you get that one for where you say negative and negative equals to a positive sign?
So you're talking about the top one here. Here at the top.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so remember, we've been practicing that a lot. Hey, remember we did it in the video. So if you go back and you check our videos, and we said that when you have two signs that are the same and they're next to each other, a positive and a positive will leave you with a positive sign. And we said a negative and a negative will leave you with a positive sign.
Positive sign.
If the two signs are different, if it's a positive and a negative, you'll be left with a negative sign. And if it's a negative and a positive, you'll be left with a negative sign. Okay, those are just the rules. Those are just the ones you have to know, unfortunately, Ompile. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so just remember, learn that table, write that table out, practice it, practice it, practice it, and then do some examples, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to do some more examples. So, Unati, what's your question?
Firstly, let me say, ma'am, sorry for being late.
That's okay.
It's confusing, ma'am. How did you do number 2?
Number 2. Okay, let's go have a look at number 2, Unati. All right, number 2. So number 2, Unati, do you agree I need a bigger number line for number 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because my number line doesn't fit here. So let's go do a bigger number line first of all. All right. So that's what I'm going to start with first of all. Okay, so here's my number line. Okay, and my number line, I'm going to put a 0 over here. 1, 2, 3. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, 10, -11, -12, let's just say. Okay, you good with my number line?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm starting at -3, okay?
Okay, ma'am, I can.
Number 2. You good that I'm starting with -3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm starting with -3. Okay, let us go and have a look that when I start at -3, so here I am at -3, all right, and I need to subtract 8, Unati. So which way am I going? Am I going left or am I going right?
Left.
Good, nice, I'm going left. So I need to minus 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh.
Okay,
I
make
see.
sure you, good. Make sure you're using your number lines, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All right, are you all good? Can I move on?
Yes, you can move on, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. All right, I will try and answer some more questions a bit later. Please make sure that you're following along when I'm answering questions and that you're also asking Mr. Hugo in the chat. Okay. All right, let us carry on. All right, so number 5, I've got 1 minus -9. So this is the one that Unati, I hope you're listening out for now, because Unati here, not Unati, sorry, was Umpilo, this is the one you were asking me just now about when I've got the negative and the negative next to each other. So I've got a negative and a negative next to each other here, okay? So what are my steps again? All right, I need to go, okay, and I need to draw a circle around them. Because the signs are the same, what happens? I cross them out and they become a positive. So I've got 1 plus 9. 1 plus 9 will give me 10, everybody. All right. I've got a negative and a positive next to each other. I draw my circle. I've got a negative and a positive, so I cross them out and it becomes a negative. 6 minus 2 will give me 4. I've got a negative and a positive next to each other. I draw a circle around them. Cross them out, it becomes a negative. 4 minus 7 will give me negative 3. I see 9 minus positive 4. I draw a circle around them. Cross them out, and I get a negative. 9 minus 4 gives me 5. And finally, I draw a circle around these guys. This is going to become a negative. Negative 8 minus 4 is going to give me negative 12. That's another one you're probably going to need a longer number line for there. All right. And again, they throw in a nice one in there for me. 4 minus 0. What's anything minus 0? It's itself. So 4. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my first word problem question for you guys today. It has to do with temperature and integers. So I'm going to bring that question up for you today. All right. And while I bring that question up and you're working on that, I'm going to see if there's any more questions. I'm going to answer 2 more questions. Okay. While you're working on my word problems for me. So there are the first 2 questions there for you while I answer some questions. All right. So Umpile, I'm not sure whether I answered your question a little bit earlier on. Your hand is still raised, so I will come back to you if you need a question answered just now. But I'm going to ask Bushle about his question first. Bushle, how can I help?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. What's up, Bushle?
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting confused about the other sign. For instead number 9.
Number 9. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The negative 8. What must we do with the other sign?
So the negative 8, we don't do anything with him because he hasn't got anything to do with what's going on in those brackets. He's all by himself. So that negative 8 belongs to, that negative belongs to that 8. So if I was looking, okay, if I was looking now at doing a number line, for instance, okay, all that negative 8 is telling me, Bushle, it's telling me where I must start on my number line. So what's it telling me? It's telling me I must start at negative 8, hey? Okay, so in other words, this will be 1, 2, 3. This will be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11, negative 12. You happier with my number line? What my number line looks like, Bushle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool.
Can see, ma'am.
So, okay, good. So everybody, we start by drawing a number line. Now, Bushle, negative 8. That negative 8 tells me where must I start on my number line. I must start at negative
8.
8, hey? Okay, so I must start at negative 8, and what must I do from negative 8? I must subtract 4. So when I'm
4.
subtracting, must I move to the left or must I move to the right?
Let's move to the left.
Good, I must move to the left. So I must go 1, 2, 3, 4. And what's my answer going to be? It's going to be negative 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't do anything with that negative. That negative 8 is telling me where do I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Makes
Thank you,
sense?
ma'am.
You're
Yes,
welcome,
ma'am.
Bushle, no problem. Okay, thank you so much for the question. All right. Okay, I am going to move to another question. So I see somebody's sound is on, guys. And their maybe sister or somebody is talking in the background. So if you could just mute yourself, that would be great. Okay. All right. I am looking to talk to somebody who's called Zoom user, is the next person who asked a question here. So I'm going to unmute that person. So let's do that. I'm unmuting Zoom user. All right, you are unmuted.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, what's your name?
Ma'am Sasha.
Hi, Sasha. How can I help?
So, ma'am, the method that we are learning in school is, for example, if you have for number 1, it's in brackets positive 5 minus positive 9. So
Yeah.
the way we would do it is to say 5 is to say that we would say 5 plus 9. We
No,
would say 5
definitely.
plus 9.
No, definitely not, Sasha, because there's definitely a minus sign there. So it definitely won't be 5 plus 9, hey? Definitely not. I think go back, check with your homework, check with your teacher, because if there's a minus sign here, we know that we've got to have a look at that minus sign. If there's a minus and a plus, we would cross it out and we would tell ourselves it would need to be a minus. And 5 minus 9 gives us negative 4. I think check with your teacher and just make sure, okay, even if you have one of those fancy calculators at home, all right, the one that's got like brackets on it and it's called a scientific calculator. If you had to put that into your scientific calculator with all the brackets and all the fancy stuff, it would come out at negative 4. So just make sure, Sasha, ask your teacher again, just check with her, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no problem, Sasha. I hope that you do understand. Go back and look. If you haven't been in our lessons before, go back and look at our lessons previously. They're on YouTube and they're also on Watobe's websites. All right, I'm going to answer one more question. So I'm going to answer, I've got Mapulare. You should be able to unmute yourself. Hi there. Oh, I can't hear you. I can see you trying to talk to me, but I can't hear you. Oh dear. Maybe your sound is still off. Okay. Perhaps maybe you can send your question in the chat. I'm really sorry. All right. I am going to maybe ask, I will come back to you and we can try a bit later. So my next person I've got here is Langa. All right, Langa, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me your question? Okay, Langa, can you ask me your question? Langa, you are unmuted. All right, I have seemed to not be able to hear.
Yeah.
Hello, Langa? Langa, can you hear me? Okay, I think maybe. Langa, I'm so sorry, but you are breaking up. Maybe you can ask your question in the chat as well. All right. Let's move to Tashia. Tashia, do you want me to ask me your question?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi there. What's your question?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask you that on the other questions, for example, isn't it question 5?
Question 5. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Right, you said that we're going to say it's going to be 1 plus 1 minus -9, right?
That's right.
But I don't understand how I got the 10 too, but I don't understand how you didn't get -10 because I got -10.
Okay, let's have a look. So we see two negatives next to each other. So what's the first step when we see two signs next to each other? We draw a circle, hey?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when we see a circle, all right, and we see two negative signs next to each other, what is the negative signs? What they're going to become?
Positive.
Good. They're going to become a positive. So I've got 1 plus 9. What's 1 plus 9?
10.
10.
So we're not going to add the positive.
Nope, that's it. Just, you can say positive 10 if you really want to. Positive.
So it will still be right.
If you say positive 10, absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, no problem. Okay, let us have a look at our word problems for today. So I will answer some more of your questions a little bit later on, or I will try to get to them. Let's have a look at our word problems for today. So the best thing to do when you have word problems is for you to try your best to change them into some maths. All right. I know that when you see words in a maths test, you're like, why are there words here? This is not supposed to be an English test. This is supposed to be a maths test. So my advice when you see words in a maths test is to try and put them into maths as quickly as possible. It's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. Okay. So we've got the temperature is 10 degrees, but drops 25 degrees. What is the new temperature? So at the moment, they're saying to me, it's 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's 10 degrees Celsius, all right? But the temperature is going to drop 25 degrees. So if something is going to drop 25 degrees, all right? And I'm really sad now that we've had to disable the chat because so many people were going against our rules and sending DMs, because I'd love to be able to ask you some questions now, but Mr. Hugo, if we can leave the chat disabled for now, that would be great. Let's leave it because we've had so many people sending so many irrelevant messages and so many of you are getting distracted. All right. So I'm going to just talk for now and we'll unmute you a little bit later on, everybody. But if we had to go and say that the temperature dropped, when we looked at thermometers on Monday, and for those of you who weren't here on Monday, please go back and watch the video about Monday. But when we say that the temperature drops, it means that it's getting colder. All right. You know, when it gets colder, all right, what's happening to the temperature? The temperature is going down. Okay. And if we're looking at a number line, if the numbers are going down, what's happening? We're going to subtract. So we're saying that at the moment it's 10 degrees, but the temperature drops by 25. So we need to say 10 minus 25. Okay, if you are not sure yet about negative numbers, adding and subtracting them, and you haven't worked out a good way to do it in your head yet, that is fine. There is nothing wrong with that, okay? Use a number line. Draw out a number line for yourself. It's quick, it's easy, there's no problem with doing that. Draw out a number line for yourself. But I can tell you that 10 minus 25 is going to give me negative 15. And because we're using temperature, I'm going to say degrees Celsius. Okay. All right. My next question. A bird begins falling at 90 feet above the ground. So in other words, a bird's flying in the air. He's 90 feet. You'll see we're using feet. Remember when we did some conversions and stuff a little bit earlier on? Oh, we haven't done conversions yet. I'm so sorry. Forthcoming attractions. It's coming. All right. That feet is just a way that they use measurements in America. All right. So they're saying he's flying above the ground. He then descends, okay, 105 feet. Where does the bird land? So a bird begins falling at 90 feet above the ground, all right? He then descends 105 feet. Where does the bird land? So that's actually a really tough one, I can tell you that, okay? Because, okay, so let's go and do how they would want us to do the number sum. So they would say, the bird begins falling at 90 feet above the ground. All right, so he's 90 feet above the ground, and he descends, so he moves minus 105. He descends 105 feet. Where does he land? So 90 minus 105. Again, you can use a number line here. So you can put it in 5s or you can put it in 10s to help yourself. It's going to give you negative 15. All right. Now, if you've got negative 15, that's kind of like saying he's underneath the ground, or he could have gone into the water, hey? But negative 15 feet. So it's more than likely he's gone underwater, but they haven't asked us to answer that. They just want us to do the maths. So negative 15. Right. My next one. Mary climbs from 90 feet above sea level and travels, okay, until she is 250 feet above sea level. How many feet does she climb? So let's see what they're saying here. All right, so Mary, okay, Mary is already on a mountain. In other words, this is kind of like a mountain that Mary's on. All right. From here to here is 60. And from here to here is 200. Sorry. So from, where's my eraser gone? All right. So at this point here is 60. And all the way up here is 250. When Mary starts, she starts at 60 feet. So she started when she was already at 60 feet, and then she climbed all the way up to 250 feet. So they're saying, how many feet did she climb? So she started at 60 and she got to 250. So we need to put that into a maths sum now. How are we going to put that into a math sum? How are we going to work out how many feet did she climb? If she started at 60 feet and she finished at 250 feet, what are we going to say? Well, the easiest way here is to take where she finished. So she finished at 250 and subtract where she started. And that will leave us with 190. All right. Two more questions, and then I'm going to take some hands. Mr. Hugo is going to disable the chat for us after that, and then we will answer some questions. So, two more questions. You have $500 in your bank account, you withdraw $200, and you deposit $350. How much money do you have now? Okay, so let's read through what you do. So first of all, you start with 500. So we're going to start with 500. We're going to do a little bit of EMS here. So we're going to mix some EMS here with some maths. All right. So when you withdraw money from your bank account, withdraw means that you are taking the money out. Drawing out the money, withdrawing it, you are minusing 200. And you deposit, what does it mean when you deposit something? You're putting the money back in. How much money do you have now? Right? So I've done the maths sum for you. You're going to work out the answer for me. When Joey woke up, his temperature was 102 degrees. 2 hours later, it was 3 degrees lower. What was his temperature then? I'm hoping that you remember from our lesson on Monday when we did our thermometers. We're going to say 102. When something is lower with temperatures, we're going to minus 3. And that's going to leave us with 99 degrees. All right. Hopefully you've had some time to go and answer the previous question for yourselves. You should have all got $650. And the last sum, an elevator is on the 20th floor. It goes down 10 floors and then it goes up 5 floors. So we're starting on the 20th floor, we're going down 10 floors and we're going up 5 floors. What floor is the elevator on now? It will be on the 15th floor. Okay, everybody. All right. I am going to move the screen down for you. While I'm answering the questions, I'm going to put the answers for you for these last few that are on my screen. Okay, then I'm going to answer the questions at the same time. Mr. Hugo is going to put the link to this week's quiz into the chat for you as well. You will also be able to, or you should be able to find it on Watobe's website. You do not need to stay until the end or until you've done the quiz and then carry on and on and on. As soon as you have finished the quiz, you may log out. Thank you so much for all of you and those who don't have questions, but I'm going to move it down now and answer some questions. If you do want to take a screenshot of these ones, you are more than welcome to. So if I don't get to your question, please make sure that you type it in the chat and we will try to answer it the next time. All right. So the first person I have here for a question is Christina. Christina, how can I help you?
I'm just very confused with the one which we just did.
Okay, Christina, about the elevator.
Yes. No,
okay,
wait,
so you,
before that, sorry, before that.
About the temperature.
Yes.
Okay, so if you wake up and your temperature is 102, and then 2 hours later, it's going to be 3 degrees lower. What happens when your temperature is lower, Christina? Are you going to add to it or are you going to subtract from it?
You're going to subtract from it, but what I'm confused with is why don't you add like the 2 hours? Because that's what I thought we had to do.
Okay, Christina, so are hours and degrees the same thing?
No.
Okay, so if I had to say to you, it's 1 o'clock now, and in 2 hours' time, I'm going to be 3 degrees hotter. Is that going to change the time?
No.
Nah. Okay, so you got to be very, very careful. Why did they put the hours in there? Just to confuse you. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good girl. All right, go make sure that you do the quiz, hey? Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
All right, Kolofelo?
Ma'am, I don't understand the dollars one.
You don't understand the dollars one, okay? Let's go have a look at it, Kolofelo. All right. So I just want to erase this dollars one. Okay, so you have $500 in your bank account. You withdraw. What does withdraw mean? Can you remember from EMS?
To take out your money, ma'am.
Good. You take out your money. So is your money going to get bigger or smaller?
I think bigger.
What? When you take out your money? What happens when you take out your money? Does it get bigger or smaller if you take out your money?
Smaller, ma'am.
Smaller. Good girl. It's going to get smaller. So am I going to add or subtract?
I'm going to subtract, ma'am.
Good girl. Okay. So I'm going to say 500 minus 200 because I'm going to have less money. So 500 was in my bank account. I took out 200. So I withdrew. I minus 200. And then I deposited. What does it mean when I deposit? Deposit means I put money in. So I added 350. Okay. And when I added that all together, it gives me 650.
Ma'am, I don't understand why is it dollars instead of rands.
It's just a question. That's all. Okay,
ma'am.
it's just a question. That's all. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you,
you,
ma'am.
I wish it was dollars. Don't you wish you had $650?
No, ma'am.
You don't want dollars.
Yes, ma'am, I want rands.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go have a look how much rands dollars are worth. You'll see. They're worth a lot of rands, promise.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, Kolofelo. I'll chat to you soon. All right, I am going to answer two more questions. So Akwande, I know that you were waiting for my question the last time, so I'm going to answer your question. And the rest of you guys, please make sure you put your questions in the chat. Akwande, what's your question, my love?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I have a question about the previous questions.
Okay, sure, from the last lesson.
No, ma'am.
From before, okay, this one. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, that's right, ma'am.
Okay, which question?
I'm confused, ma'am, when you are circling.
When you are?
Circling, like in number,
Circling.
Yes, ma'am, like in number 8, ma'am.
Number 8, okay, let's go do number 8 together. All right, let's have a look. Okay, Akwande, do we see two signs that are next to each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I must circle them because they're next to each other, hey? Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what did that table tell us? Remember our table that we've got here? So we go up to our table. When I have a sign that's a negative and a positive that's next to each other, okay? What does it become when there's a negative and a positive? What do the signs become when they're next to each other? A negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, they're going to become a negative, hey? Here's it over here.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
You see it there?
Yes, ma'am, I do, ma'am.
Okay, you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I go down here. So I'm not going to see these two signs anymore because that's not maths. It doesn't make sense if there's two signs. I only want to see one sign. So it's going to become a minus. So 9 minus 4 is going to give me 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Right. Okay, everybody, I'm going to answer one more question. Please, please, please make sure that you have put your questions in the chat if I haven't gotten to you. As a reminder, Shakina, you should be able to unmute yourself, Shakina. How can I help you? Hi. How can I help?
So, ma'am, for the number problems,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if for the one before
Yep.
this, the question of the day.
Yep.
So I was
The one.
asking if is it possible for us to end up with a decimal, or is it possible for the question to ask for decimal?
So it is possible for there to sometimes maybe be a decimal if there's negative numbers. Yeah, you could maybe have a decimal. But all the ones that we've practiced so far, we haven't really had many decimals. And no, we haven't had decimals because we've still been learning about the concept. But you might find in your quiz that you've got that there might be a decimal in your quiz. You might, in today's quiz that you guys have done, you might find that in your test, you might have a decimal because you guys have done decimals. Remember last term, you would have done decimals in class. But in our lesson today, we don't have any decimals, no. Do you have a specific question, Shakina, for me?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which question do you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any specific questions that you want to look at, or just in general?
Oh, no, ma'am. That was
Just in
my
general.
question.
Okay, cool. All right.